Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again for another set of stories. If you remember last week, I thought I had a bit of a cold, and you'll notice this week I'm still not quite there. My voice is sounding a little bit different to normal. I actually thought I had a bad cold, but after 5 days after the last upload, I had to go to hospital and have an x-ray and everything because I deteriorated very, very quickly. And it turns out I actually got pneumonia. I mean, who catches pneumonia in Thailand? I did. And it got quite bad. You know, I woke up one night, I could hardly breathe, and I really thought it must be a new variant of COVID or something like that. But the hospital did say to me it was pneumonia, and I'm on the mend. I've been on antibiotics for about 7 days now, but I'm still not quite there, but feeling a lot better. So, okay, enough of me. Let's get on up with the stories. I've got 5 today. The reason I've got 5 is I've been digging deep, and I've got 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them at least, are very, very short stories, just a page or so. And as usual, I am running very, very low on stories. If it gets to the point that I run out of stories, I think the only thing I'm going to be able to do is go back 4 years ago and start reading them again from story 1 all that time ago. But I don't really want to do that. So if you're sitting on a story, please send it in and I'll make it anonymous as usual. All right. So let's get straight into story number 1.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I discovered your channel about a year ago and have become a real fan. You're a natural storyteller and your clear voice is easy listening for me as I have mild hearing loss. I am in my 60s and am well travelled. I especially enjoy adventure travel. Since my wife of 45 years considers adventure travel to be anywhere outside of North America or Europe, I often travel alone or with a child or grandchild. But my best travel partner is my younger brother. He will go anywhere and do most anything. He is also in his 60s and married for over 40 years. We have travelled extensively in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, as well as Europe. Often we're assumed to be an old gay couple. This assumption is okay in Europe and can actually get you special treatment, but in some countries not so much. Just before COVID, we decided to go to Cambodia and explore Angkor Wat, as well as other temples and historic sites. Each morning would consist of our private guide taking us to a different attraction, followed by lunch in a non-tourist restaurant with our guide along to read the menu and explain and recommend local cuisine. After lunch, we would return to our hotel for an afternoon of spa treatments, ending the evening on Pub Street listening to music and drinking Angkor beer. One afternoon, our guide recommended a different spa that he said was better value than the hotel spa. We agreed, and soon we were in a beautiful reception area picking out a professional massage therapist from a lineup of very attractive professionals. Now don't get me wrong, I'm no prude, I still like the ladies and I don't need the little blue pill. And if I was single, I'd be in Thailand with you partying every night. But I'm still in love and have never been unfaithful in our marriage. So I said to myself, you can do this, it's just a massage. My brother was laughing and quoted a line from an Austin Powers movie. He said, just think of Margaret Thatcher naked on a cold winter's day. Well, this worked to some extent. I think the therapist was becoming frustrated that I was not responding to her efforts to bring things to a happy ending and finally gave up. It was a good massage though. My pelvic and inner thigh muscles have never felt so good. As I entered the reception area, I saw my brother sitting there grinning like the cat that had just ate the canary. I asked him if he remembered to tip. He says I tip for services rendered. He had this big grin on his face. I said, you had a happy ending, didn't you? He just smiled and said, I want to come back here tomorrow. I felt bad for my therapist because she had worked so hard. I went over to her in front of the other girls and handed her an extra $100 and told her with great appreciation and gratitude that it was the best massage that I had ever had. After listening to your channel, I've learnt that losing face is a big deal in Thailand and probably in Cambodia too. So I'm glad that I went back and gave her the extra money and compliment. The other ladies were probably impressed with her skills, making the old guy so grateful. And that's it, just a story from a massage parlour. That kind of rings a bell. I kind of remember that, so I hope I haven't read that out on the channel lately, let's not say before. But as I was reading that through, I thought, I'm not sure, but I might have read this before. So if I have, apologies, and second time around is always better, as they say. Right, I'm going to jump straight into the next story, and I definitely haven't read this one out before. Hi, Peter. Really enjoying your stories. It helped keep me entertained throughout the COVID period. Anyways, Figured I'd answer your call for more stories and finally had a free moment, so here goes. I visited Thailand for the first time in the early 2000s with a group of friends. A couple of our experienced friends guided us through the process and advised us if we brought 2,000 US dollars in spending money, we'd have a good time. If we bought 3K, we'd have a great time. If we brought 4K plus, we would be gods, laugh out loud. Anyway, we arrived in Bangkok and got checked into our hotel about 10 p.m. Kinda late, but we decided to hit the ground running and off to Nana Plaza it was. It was just as your viewers said, amazing for a first timer like a kid in a candy store. We all found our hookups and mine was a short time at a nearby short time hotel. I was too tired to shop around for a long time hookup to take back to my hotel, so just called it a night and went back to get some rest after a long flight from the States. We spent several days in Bangkok and the last 2 days in Pattaya, going through the motions. Go-go bars, beer bars, regular and soapy massage, shopping, eating and drinking. Drinking too much. For me, anyway. Problem was that I was having such a good time, I was pounding beers at every stop, and by the time I found my hookups, well, let's just say, on a couple of occasions, beer goggles had set in, and a few of the girls I brought back to my hotel room were not of the caliber you would expect given the choices. So the following morning, while my buddies were showing off their previous evening's ladies during breakfast the next morning, I had to sneak my dates out of the hotel a couple of times without being seen by the group. I'm glad this was only a couple of occasions and most of my dates were beautiful and always accommodating. I was only able to visit once and regret not going back, although I did manage a trip to the Philippines a few years later, but that's another story. As a side note, we found Bangkok to be an amazing city full of international tourists, male and female alike, enjoying the night scenes, partying, incredible malls, and of course the food, and also affordable. So just a short story here. Maybe you can use it as a filler. Regards, W. Yeah, not a bad little story. The thing is, you've got to be careful, haven't you? Because if you come here on vacation to a place like Pattaya, for instance, and you want to spend some time with the ladies, when you go out, it's just natural to drink beer. You have a beer. But the problem is you move from bar to bar to bar, and we've all done it, and you buy a bottle of Heineken, and you're halfway through it, and you move to the next one, buy another one, and by the time it gets to kind of midnight, yeah, you're kind of half gone or nearly all the way gone there. So you've got to limit yourself. I used to do like a soda water in one bar, then a beer in the next bar, then a soda water, and that wasn't too bad for me. Okay, we're going to jump straight into story number three. This might be another short one. Let's get into it. Listening to volume 100, I just remembered a story I thought you might like to use. I came to Thailand in 2007, met my future wife and was married to her in 2008. Around 2012, we started having a lot of arguments, and at one point I left her. I had met a Thai girl in the village I liked that was visiting a friend. She said she liked me, but she had a cousin that really liked me as well, and would I consider being with both of them? I agreed, and we travelled to northern Thailand where they lived. I was not sure what their situation was, but found out they worked for another cousin who was married to an Australian guy. I was checked into a local hotel with both the girls, but brought to the cousin's house to meet her and her husband. Her husband was a professor at a university and seemed very nice. What I then found out was that the cousin was a daughter of a retired police captain and she was in charge of the local mafia. People would come to her house constantly, dropping off sums of money. When we would go into town and walk into shopping malls, you could see people cringing away from the cousin in fright, knowing what power she had. The cousin was also very bossy and used to telling everyone what to do. I just did not want to be under her control. Even her cousins and I were getting along very nicely. Eventually, she told me I should go back to Bangkok, divorce my wife and come back to marry her, both her cousins. You know, in Thai custom, although not many do it anymore, a man can legally have up to 4 wives. I told her I would and flew back to Bangkok. My wife and I got back together and I told her the circumstances. I also had to return to the States at this time to handle some business there. I formed a plan and told my wife what I had planned and left for the States. After a few weeks in the States, I had my son send an email to the cousin telling her I had a heart attack and I'd passed away, then closed my email account within a week and opened a new one. When I returned to Thailand, I was nervous. Maybe someone who knew the cousin might see me. But after a few months, I relaxed again. There was no effort from the cousin or the two girls to contact me again. As we say in America, I dodged the bullet again. Maybe more than in words this time. Very strange story. I've not heard about any guys being asked to live with two girls, but there you go. This is Thailand, as they say. Right, not wasting any time, straight into story number 4. I've been watching your channel for a few months now. I'm really enjoying all of the stories. Keep up the good work. So the story I have isn't about me, but about my friend. I was wondering if you could read it out and ask your viewers' opinions, because the story is still very much ongoing. I'm pretty sure he's been scammed hard, but he doesn't think so. A bit of a background. I go to Thailand quite a bit. I'm 37, so I'm still very much into the backpacking circuit and stay away from the bar scene. My friend is the same age, but he basically goes for the bar scene, so I've hooked up with him a few times in Thailand for a couple of weeks at a time, usually, which has given me a glimpse into how the bar scene and women operate in general. My friend is in okay shape and not bad looking. However, he's never really had a girlfriend in the UK, just some one night stands here and there, probably because he's still a bit quiet around girls. However, going to Thailand strokes his ego because he basically gets a girl every other night and he claims he hardly ever pays. I have actually witnessed it before in the morning when a girl has been asking him for money because taxis are expensive, presumably. Because she didn't want to say, "You owe me money for the aerobics," so instead he walked her to the bus stop and put her on a BART bus. I've also known him to be scammed a few times though, so you could say that's just karma. Anyway, I'll start with the story. Last year there were a group of 5 of us travelling to Thailand doing the island hopping in the south. It was a mixed group, so we wasn't going near any of the girls. My friend, who for argument's sake I'll call him Dave, kept getting random friend requests and messages from Thai women. At the time he claimed he didn't know why, but maybe it was because the girls have heard about his great stamina on previous visits to Thailand, laugh out loud. He's a bit of a narcissist, so he probably believed this in his head, but I've later found out it's because he joined a Facebook group for Thai women looking for foreign guys, but he claims he did it by accident. So there was one female who kept messaging, and straight away it was red flag time. I can't remember the messages now, but I found them quite weird and bizarre. The main context though was he was flying into Bangkok airport, and despite never meeting or speaking on the phone, she said she would drive 2 hours from where she lives, I think it could have been Rayong, to pick him up and then spend the night in a nice resort near Pattaya. I asked the girl in the group whether she finds anything dodgy with this, and she didn't seem too concerned, so I just thought I was being an over-concerned friend. So my friend Dave and this Thai girl ended up spending the next 4 nights together, at which point she told him she loves him. He loves the attention, so he thinks she has actually fell madly in love with him, and he was shown off quite a bit that he made a girl fall in love with him so quickly. Maybe she did, and I'm just being cynical. I thought to myself, I think they spent a couple of the next weeks seeing each other quite a bit before he flew somewhere else to meet me. This is where it starts getting strange. They would video call each other for around 7 hours a day maybe, and even more. 90% of the time they wouldn't speak, they just wave sporadically to each other and say the occasional few words. A lot of the time I'd forget they were on live cam to each other and mention her name, then all I would hear from his phone is high-pitched voice asking what I'm saying about her. Crazy. I finally left Asia and he went to Pattaya, and I think she used to drive there after work most nights to see him. It started doing his head in. He said because a lot of the time they would argue because she would be tired from driving back and forth a lot and also working. I have to point out at this stage that he never paid her anything as far as I'm aware. So finally his money ran out and he flew back to the UK around March time this year. However, the video calls only got worse, and even when he was working they would still be on the phone to each other all the time. She started getting angry at the weekends because he was out all weekend drinking and spending his money on alcohol. One Sunday, it got to the point where she said, "You don't care about me and I'm going to film myself harming myself so you can see the pain that you're putting me through." At this stage, they probably had known each other for about 5 months. After several anxious hours, he finally got a call from his girlfriend's daughter going crazy on the phone, saying her mum had just tried to hurt herself and she was blaming it all on my friend. So this is where, in my opinion, it gets quite unbelievable. The story that his girlfriend concocted was that she went into the sea to drown herself, but she claims that at the time a Thai princess was visiting her town and being escorted by the Thai Navy. The Navy seen her drowning, so a couple of the crew dived in to save her life. I find this story very hard to believe, as do all our friends. My friend Dave is the only one who seems to believe this story and commented on how lucky it was that the Navy were there to save her life. So 2 days later, and his girlfriend is no longer depressed about it all, because my friend has now said he can see how much they mean to each other and promises to change his ways and always be there for her. So now his girlfriend, who is apparently also works in a real estate, despite also having an office job and also once working with the FBI in Thailand. Can you see why I'm finding her hard to believe? Now she wants to set up a business with my friend Dave. So she is going to rent out properties in Pattaya and then sublet them to tourists. Surprise, surprise, my friend has to put up all the cash up front for this business. I'm not sure how much it was, but I know his dad lent him money. His dad lives in Pattaya and has been around the bar scene for years. So if this is a scam, I would have thought he would know, which is why I'm still uncertain. Anyway, all the money they make from subletting the apartment is going into a separate account in his girlfriend's name. When we've questioned where the evidence that money is going into this account, he said he doesn't want to ask her because then she'll think he doesn't trust her. Business is slow, however, because it's rainy season, so basically he's just paying monthly installments on these apartments with nobody staying in them about 2 months after he originally got back from Thailand and about a month into their business venture. She video called him once again saying she was going to hurt herself if he didn't come out to Thailand to see her. She was running around the apartment, headbutting walls and had a knife in her hand saying she was going to harm herself. So my friend, who works in construction, left the job immediately, letting people down in the process, borrowed money from his dad plus other people to fly out and stay with her. She's now quit her office job and has no money, so he's now paying her rent. The monthly payments on the apartment they want to rent out, and I assume paying for everything else. He stayed out for 3 weeks where she was no longer depressed any longer, and he once again promised her not to go out drinking anymore because it's selfish and he will be more supportive. Whenever I see him now, which is about once every 2 weeks, he's always very distracted on his phone. They still call him video chat relentlessly. The few occasions where I've glanced over to his message, if they're ever messaging each other, it's just arguments and drama. We've tried to speak to him about her saying it's going to end in disaster. She's either A, just after money, or B, is a psycho who will end up harming him, or the both of them. So that's where we are right now. I went out drinking with him yesterday and it was the same whole scenario where he's just on his phone all day and they are breaking up or having massive dramas. I really hope you can read this story out and viewers can leave their thoughts in the comments. Well, I know what my thoughts are. If you rewind this video, if you don't watch these videos, if you don't watch these, when I'm telling these stories, if you don't watch the screen and you're working or you're jogging or something like that, if you rewind where he was telling the bit about where the Navy guys jumped in and saved her, I mean, I couldn't help but laughing. You can actually literally see me smiling as I'm reading it out. I mean, absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, you know, here's this girl decides to drown herself. She goes out to the sea and the Navy just happened to be there. And not only do the Navy happen to be there, but 2 sailors jump in and save her. I mean, if he couldn't see past that story, then there's no hope for him, is there? I mean, I don't like to criticise guys, but you know, I mean, it's just too much, is all them stories. We hear all the stories every day, but that's got to win the worst lie of the year competition if there was one. Right, okay, I'm going to go into the final story now, the 5th story, and let's just go for it. I've been watching your videos almost non-stop for the last couple of months. In many of the stories, I can relate and understand. It is super easy for all of us standing on the outside and see all the red flags. Like Charlie Sheen says in the series 2.5 Men, love isn't blind, it's retarded. That is kind of harsh, but also true. We all have a black belt in hindsight. Now to my little story. That is in 3 parts, or rather 3 widely different experiences. There are 2 women that live here in Sweden. The first one was younger and has lived here for 6 or 7 years, but still cannot speak Swedish at all. but she does speak very good English, and they're both Thai. So we were able to communicate pretty good, with almost no misunderstandings. We met on the dating app Badoo. I fell for her very fast, small body and cute face. At first, she would show me a lot of affection and attention, well, at least more than most other Swedish women do. It all looked good on paper, but now for the bad parts. She had a very bad attitude and was always talking about money all the time. It was always what she needed and what I had to do to help her. I had to drive her to this place or that place, or to buy her food or anything else she wanted. She almost never showed me any love, and she never kissed or hugged me. Did I mention she had a couple of kids as well? Later on, she never thought about anything or anybody, only her own needs. Even her children were second best. She had been married, and she was always talking about how bad her ex-husband was, and she needed money to go back to Thailand. I tried to sit on the fence. I didn't really want to get into that argument, but when I did that, she said I was a bad man with no feelings towards her. She was very manipulative and always got her own way. She'd look into my eyes with her own puppy dog eyes, and I always felt sorry for her, and she managed to get her own way. Then the tables would turn, and it would be, you're a good man with a big heart as long as she got what she wanted. Almost like an obedient servant. I couldn't see it back then, but I certainly look back and see it now. The other thing I didn't like is when we were out and I was with my friends, she would keep saying I was crazy, maybe 10 or 12 times within a 30-minute period. It drove me mad. I don't know if it was her intention was to drive my friends away from me or to turn the attention they were giving me to her. Like a lot of typical Thai women, she would always accuse me of seeing other women behind her back, when in actual fact she was the only woman I was seeing at the time. Thankfully, this relationship only lasted for about a month, but there was a scary ending. On one of the final days before we both knew we were going to part, we made love without any protection. At the critical point when I was done, she held me firmly with her legs and wouldn't let me go. I think we all know where this was going. Total panic set in on my side, but a few days later, I ended it once and for all. I never heard from her again. I met a second Thai lady on the dating app Badoo, but at the time she was still married to an elderly Swedish guy that had moved out to another guy's apartment. She said she did not want to have aerobics with him. She only cooked and cleaned for him, and she still loved him. But when she didn't get any aerobics, she came to me, and I had lots. Nothing more about this girl to tell you. It's just strange how a lot of them don't seem to have any feelings of loyalty or guilt. It seems like many of these girls have three guys. The first for security, who looks after them. The second, a boyfriend who they can go to for aerobics. And a third, just as a backup. I'm currently single, and I'm planning my first trip to Thailand in January. I have been in contact with many beautiful women on Badoo who are in Thailand, but I have made it quite clear that I won't be sending any money. About 90% of them dropped off the radar once I told them this. The few that are still talking to me, I hope they are not planning the long game and are genuine girls looking for love. Only time will tell. I really hope to meet a good, genuine Thai girl who I could possibly have a long-term relationship or even marry and take back to Sweden. I'd love to have children and a real family. The problem I have is I don't have any experience with Thailand other than watching YouTube videos. Maybe your viewers could leave comments to try and help me. Where do I avoid and where do I go to find nice girls to date? Perhaps the next time when I've been to Thailand there will be yet another story, but hopefully positive, not negative, like this one. You know, in the old days, it used to be dating agencies, didn't it? They had a few offices up here on Sukhumvit. You'd go in there and you'd watch a bunch of videos. I don't know if they still have them. I think they're a thing of the past. But, you know, if you're a guy and you're coming out here and you're genuinely looking for a nice girl, you know, you're not looking for a holiday girlfriend or one-night stands. I think from personal experience with my friends, I think the best bet is to get on these dating apps. But the problem is there's all sorts on there, and you've basically just got to weed out the lady boys and the freelancers and everybody. And I was actually talking to a Thai girl yesterday who's got she's got a good business. She's a regular Thai girl of about 35. The reason I was talking to her is because we're actually putting a video together asking her these kind of questions. Now, by the time this upload goes live to you guys. It's a week from now, because as I said last week, I always record a week in advance. Now, this question came up with this girl when I interviewed her, and she said the same thing. Look, if you're looking for a good Thai girlfriend, the best thing to do is go onto a dating site. And I said to her, because she met her American boyfriend on a dating site, and I said, well, how do you what do you look for as a Thai woman, and you're looking on dating sites? It must be the same for you, because there's a lot of kind of scammers and stuff. And she said, yeah, there's adverts on there from young guys that say, I'm coming to Thailand for 2 weeks, looking for friends with benefits, that sort of thing. And she said, if you're a regular Thai girl and you're looking for a real relationship, I said, well, what did you actually, excuse me, I said, what did you actually sort of things you look for? And what she said is she'd asked the guy for his social media. She wanted to know what he did for a living. They had ongoing conversations, and from that she could work out if the guy was genuine or he was just looking to play around. And the other thing she said, which was very, very interesting, she said if you go onto a Thai dating site and you're looking for a Thai woman, you see somebody who really attracts you and she basically fobs you off, or she looks like she's not interested, what she said was, well, don't give up, because that might be a test from her, because a lot of guys will be trying to write into her, and she, what some girls do, they just initially they fob you off, like, I'm not interested, but that's because they're testing the guys to see if they'll come back and make the effort, and the ones who do are going to be the ones who win. So it was quite interesting talking to her. So I hope to have that video out this week, actually. So probably by the time these stories are released on Saturday, then that video will have already been up. We'll see. But she's a nice girl. She's about 32, 33. And as I say, comes from a middle-class family. Very, very interesting video. Right, waffling again. Okay, guys, that's it from me. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm desperately short of stories. If I totally run out, I'm going to have to go back to 4 years ago and start again. I hope I don't have to do that. If you're sitting on a story, send it in. I'll make it anonymous, and you can hear your story being read out right here. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll be back next Saturday, hopefully with some more stories.